is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we listen to terrible horror movies so you don't have to. And this week, we're going to tell you why Oculus sucks. I'm Ashley Atkins, and I have a headache.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and when we first discussed this idea for a podcast, my idea was to watch Under the Dome and review each episode. And that might be why Ashley has a headache.
You know, Under the Dome will do that to you.
You want to know the funniest part? We ended up mutually agreeing that was a bad idea, with the biggest reason being there was a limited number of episodes, and Under the Dome podcast would just... You can't rebrand that. That's it.
You know, I kind of have blacked out this conversation because I genuinely don't remember it. I think it's for the best.
If I remember correctly, you actually told me we could watch Under the Dome, and then when we were done, then we could move on to horror, and that way we wouldn't have to explain to people why it's called Under the Dome Cast.
You know...
Starting to ring a bell?
No. But honestly, when I first pitched the idea of us doing a podcast together, I really was just trying to get you interested. So it wouldn't surprise me if I just said whatever to make you seem interested. But then as soon as I pitched it, you were like, you don't have to sell me, which is great.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, in a dream when you win the lottery and, like, in your heart, you know that you haven't won the lottery, but you're playing along because it's fun. That was what happened when Ashley said we could watch Under the Dome. Is I knew deep down that we would never, ever do an Under the Dome episode. But I just, I played along. I let myself believe it was happening.
Maybe for your birthday, we can do a singular Under the Dome episode.
Maybe.
So you have to choose your favorite.
I'm already thinking about doing Sex and the City for my episode, so...
Oh, fair.
I don't know, I'll think about it. Maybe we'll put it to a vote so the 6 people that listen to this weekly can vote.
There we go.
They already get to when they submit a suggestion, is we already watch it.
Listen, if you want to hear us cover something, we will do it.
I think we've only...
The only one we haven't done is the Serbian film.
And Velocipaster. Serbian film, it's because it's such a, like... Jacob was right. It would be good to watch our reactions to it, but that just doesn't translate to a podcast.
Well, that might be a special episode where we videotape it.
That might be good.
Maybe when if we get enough fans and start a fan cult.
Anyway, today we are watching Oculus. I am so excited for this. I love in the way that I love Event Horizon is... This was one of my all-time favorite mediocre horror movies. So first of all, I don't remember the first time I watched it, but the most memorable time was me, Joe, who was on this show already, and I believe our friend Zach. And the 3 of us tried to buy tickets to The Shape of Water, but it was like the end of when it was airing. So we drove like a half hour to the nearest theater. It was pouring rain, and they... only had one showing in like 2 hours. So they were like, what are we going to do for the next hour and 40 minutes? And I was like, we could watch Oculus. And so we sat in the pouring rain, just looking at my phone, watching Oculus. It ended. And then we watched The Shape of Water. So I have great memories with this movie.
I find the image of you, Joe, and Zach in your car watching Oculus on your phone to be the funniest.
Pouring rain.
Of course.
Torrential downpour.
I find that to be absolutely hilarious.
It was a lot of fun. So, in football, this is relevant. In football, there used to be a quarterback, I think he retired, named Andy Dalton. And he was very okay. And they came up with a phrase called the Dalton line, which meant that if your quarterback was better than Andy Dalton, above the Dalton line, then he was a good quarterback. But if he was below the Dalton line, he was a bad quarterback. He was essentially the perfect line of what acceptable quarterback play looked like. That is, in a summary, this movie. I believe this movie is the Dalton line of horror movies, where if a movie is better than Oculus, I will not deny that it's a good movie. It is a good movie. If it's worse than Oculus, I have no problem saying it's a bad movie.
Okay. I think that's fair. I don't want to give too much away and say I really enjoyed it and was surprised you suggested we cover it. So
yeah.
I also watched it for the first time today. So I don't have a deep-rooted history with the movie. That being said, I think we should get into it. But before we do, just for the newbies here who don't know how this works, we're going to cover the plot of the movie with spoilers. Sorry. And then we'll give some fun facts about the movie. And then we'll go over what we thought was good, bad, and spooky. And then we will finish it off with our overall impressions and ratings. And with that, Carter, take it away with the plot.
Okay, so the plot is actually fairly complex, and so I am going to tell you the past and the present separately. In the movie, they were happening at the same time, but that's going to be extremely confusing, and it's going to involve me saying back in 2002 a lot. So
I think you can just keep it simple.
No, this one needs to be in depth.
Okay.
So in 2002, Karen Gillan, Branton Thwaites, and their parents, their names are like Tim and Kaylee. I'm just going to call them by the actors' names.
Those are actually the right names, too.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, I know them. I chose not to use them. So they move into a new house, and while they're getting furniture, the father gets an antique mirror and hangs it in his office. He begins to see a ghostly woman around the house, but she disappears before he can really look at her. The houseplants begin to die, and at some point, and the dog misbehaves. Eventually, the mom locks the dog in the office because it was misbehaving so badly, and when they open it, the dog's gone, presumably consumed by the mirror. Karen Gillan, while playing with her brother, sees the woman in her dad's office. The dad becomes withdrawn, and the mom becomes paranoid, especially after finding out that the daughter saw a woman in his office. She begins drinking heavily, and she angers very quickly. And one night, she is just driven crazy. She found presumably a love letter, and she snaps and tries to kill her kids. The dad finds her, but the mirror, which has the ability to control what you see and perceive, it changes the phone. And so when he calls the doctor tells him there's no need to bring her in, what she needs is bed rest. And so it's controlling him, and he chains her up in the bedroom. She starts to act like an animal, and he becomes even more withdrawn, just staring into the mirror at all times. The kids run out of food, and when they go for help, they either call the police, which every number they try redirects them to the same voice saying, "Have your father call," or they tell the neighbors, and the neighbors just think it's nothing. The dad is going crazy, he pulls his fingernails out, and one night he releases the mother, the two of them attack the kids, and the mother's killed. The kids run to the study, and when they go to destroy the mirror with golf clubs, they're unable to. Brenton struggles with the dad, gets a gun, and ends up shooting his dad, and the bullet passes through him into the mirror and damages it. So the kids escape, and before they leave, they promise that one day they'll return and destroy the mirror for good. So in the present, Brenton Thwaites is released from psychiatric care. The doctors are confident he's recovered from his delusions that the mirror was controlling his family. He reconnects with his sister, Karen Gillan, but she holds him to his promise, even though he now believes that it was a delusion. She says, "We have to destroy the mirror." Eventually, she convinces him to return to the house, where she reveals she's set up a series of fail-safes so that the mirror can't hurt them. That includes hourly reminders to eat and drink water, temperature monitors. Every hour, her fiance calls and checks on her. And then the piece de resistance is a giant weighted anchor hanging from the ceiling that will swing and smash the mirror unless every hour they reset a timer. Meaning, if it does successfully kill them, it will be destroyed. So it can't actually kill them. At first, nothing happens, but eventually, right as he finally convinces his sister that's all in her head, it's revealed that the mirror has been controlling them to kind of just general mischief, moving cameras around. It's controlling what they can and can't see. And there, it's proof that the mirror is controlling them. Brandon Thwaites tries to leave the house, but is unable to. And eventually it's just kind of a psychological battle with the mirror. Karen Gillan finds a broken plate and is attacked by her mother from the past. But when she stabs it, it's revealed that it's actually her fiance who came in to check on her. They call the police, and they have the same voice from when they were kids saying to have your father call. And so they realize that they're trapped there. At this point, the past and the present are like fully woven together. Karen Gillan and Brandon Thwaites are separated and forced to relive their battles from when they were kids. Eventually, like in the past, they both succeed. Karen Gillan wakes up in the empty room in the past and sees her mother in the mirror, and her mother brings her in for a hug. Brandon Thwaites wakes up in the room in the present and sees just an empty room in the mirror, and he decides he's had enough. He's going to detonate the swinging anchor, destroy the mirror. And as he does that, it's revealed that the mirror is hiding her from him, and the anchor swings, hits her in the head and kills her. The mirror is unharmed, and eventually Brandon Thwaites is led away by the police in a scene just like when he was a kid. And as he looks in the mirror, he sees all the ghosts from the last time, except now Karen Gillan has joined them.
I'm a little confused on a couple of things. Did the fiance actually die? Was that real? I have complaints about it, but the movie led me to believe that, yes, it was real. Okay, I couldn't tell. She says that when she first tricks her brother to go in there, he says, all right, let's just destroy it now. And she goes, you know that we can't do that. I never got an answer as to why, and maybe that's just I missed something. Why she knew, or why they couldn't destroy it? Why they couldn't destroy that. The mirror can control what you see, so like what happened when he walked up with the chair to smash it, it just convinced him that no, that you're gonna get into trouble. You need to. Oh, that's right. You need to show your sister. And when they were kids, when they tried to smash it, the mirror made them miss, and so they just wailed on the walls next to it. That's right. Okay, and now I am. That wasn't one of my complaints. That that wasn't a complaint issue. It just I didn't understand it, and I think I just kind of misread it based on the context. Mm-hmm. I think that's okay. So I'm gonna pitch a new idea. So every time we mispronounce a word, we have to drink. But every time we accidentally say the word Reddit, even out of context, like misread it, you have to drink. I'll drink with you, just to prove that it's not me picking on you. Sorry, you all missed me dead stare into Carter's eyes as I picked up my drink. So tell us some fun facts about this movie. Perfect. Okay, so first things first, this movie originally came out in 2013, but had a theater release in 2014. So a little bit of delay there. It is co-written, edited, and directed by Michael Flanagan, who based this movie off of his short film, Oculus, Chapter 3, The Man with the Plan. What was the first two chapters? They don't exist. It's just Oculus, Chapter 3, The Man with the Plan. Okay, Mike Flanagan. And for those of you wondering, it's a single actor in a room with a mirror, kind of experiencing psychological horror from a mirror. But the short film was so well perceived that producers wanted to get the ball rolling. This movie could have been made in 2006, but a lot of the production companies wanted it to be found footage, and Michael Flanagan did not want that, so he waited. For those of you who don't know Michael Flanagan by name, he is known for directing and writing and editing Haunting of Hill House, which is on Netflix, as well as Midnight Mass, Dr. Sleep, Gerald's Game, and Ouija, Origin of Evil. Ouija. It's Ouija. Are you sure? Yes. All right. I went to the Ouija Museum in Salem. I know what I'm talking about. But did you see the Ouija movie? There's a big difference. Fair. I'm correcting you on the movie, not the reality. Got it. Okay. So Ouija, Origin of Evil. It might be Ouija. I don't remember. It's okay. I saw that movie in 2015. I've never seen it, so you're better than me. So he does have a couple of upcoming things to keep an eye out for. One is The Midnight Club, which is a short series on Netflix. Something is Killing the Children, which is also a series on Netflix. And The Fall of the House of Usher, which is also a limited series on Netflix.
Oh my God.
If you couldn't tell, he's got a lot going on Netflix. And a fun fact about him, he was born in Salem, Massachusetts.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I have another fun fact about him.
Yes.
So Mike Flanagan is married to actress Kate Siegel, and she's been in most of his work since Oculus, and they wrote the screenplay of Hush together.
They did. They met actually on set.
Cool.
Yeah. She's not in this movie, but at one moment, Karen Gillan's character is flipping through all the previous characters who were killed by the mirror, and her photo is used for one of them.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so the movie stars Karen Gillan as adult Kaylee, and I'm just curious, how do you know her? What is
this movie?
Really?
I mean,
okay.
I think I saw her in Guardians of the Galaxy first, but I know her from this movie.
So you're not a nerd.
There was a time period where I saw Karen Gillan and thought, oh, it's the girl from Oculus. Not unhappily. That tone made it sound unhappy, but...
Well, Karen Gillan is most known for her role as Amy Pond in Doctor Who.
That's very nerdy.
Is how I know her. But she's also Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy / Marvel Universe. She also is in the new Jumanji movies. But this movie, Oculus, is actually her first American film.
No kidding.
Or her first American role.
Fun fact about Karen Gillan. In her role as Nebula, you can see in the... They put her in the full face makeup, but you can tell in the unedited footage that she's wearing a bald cap because her head like bulges a little bit. So they had to presumably CGI edit her head to be more normal sized.
It's a smart decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we have Annalise Basso as young Kaylee. She's known for her roles in Bedtime Stories and Ouija, Origins of Evil. Yes. And then we've got Brenton Thwaites as adult Tim. He's known for The Giver, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and the HBO Max series Titans. And then we have Garrett Ryan Ewald as young Tim, and he's known for Dog with a Blog, Judy Moody, and the Insidious movies.
Okay. I can tell right now this is going to be our most unhinged episode.
A little bit. Hold on, I'm almost done.
Okay.
The mom is pretty, actually both parents are. So the mom, she plays Marie. She's Kate Sackhoff. She's known for Battlestar Galactica and
Chronicles of Riddick.
Chronicles of Riddick. And she's also in The Mandalorian and a voice actor for Star Wars Clone Wars and the other Star Wars cartoon. And then the father, Alan, is played by Rory Cochrane, and he was in Dazed and Confused, Empire Records, and Argo.
Nice.
Yeah. This film had a budget of $5 million, and it made worldwide $44 million.
Pretty good return on investment.
Pretty good. Yeah. So Flanagan has included the Oculus mirror as an Easter egg in most of his shows and movies. You can see it in Hill House and all the other ones. It's pretty neat. Karen Gillan was the first choice for this role because Flanagan was a fan of her work on Doctor Who. So I'm not the only nerd.
And presumably was in love with her.
I don't know about that. But the movie was filmed in 24 days.
That's impressive.
Yes. Most of the pictures in the house show reflections or water. And Stephen King loved the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he loves I don't think I've ever heard him say a bad thing about a horror movie. Like, first of all, he says good things about his own movies, which is the most unforgiving thing I can say about his taste.
Listen, IMDb felt it was worth noting, so therefore I feel it is worth noting.
Okay.
So when writing the screenplay, to avoid confusion, Flanagan wrote the scenes in the past in italics. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't get confused. And then apparently it's really hard to film a movie based on a mirror because mirrors are reflective.
Yeah, that happens. That'll do.
And that's it. It's all my facts.
Okay. So are you ready to talk about The Good?
You know it.
The Good. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. So I gotta say,
Yes.
this movie had a really strong start.
Yeah. I loved the cold open. It was so it put you right in the action. And then the ghost was also a really great mislead. And she was ambiguous. So it's Karen Gillan as a child. She's clearly hiding from something. Very scared. She goes downstairs and looks in the office, and there's a ghost-looking lady with these mirrors for eyes standing there. And it's hard to see who it is. You think it could be maybe her mother or something. It's hard to tell.
We don't know.
It was just a great mislead. Made you think the movie was going to be about ghosts or whoever that was.
No, it was good. But I also just mean the kind of setup leading into the action with leading into them going to the house and whatnot. I was very compelled to keep watching the movie. I wanted to know what happened with this house and in the mirror and whatnot. So I thought it had a really strong start to captivate us and bring us in beyond the cold open as well. And even the start of when they're in the house, once it starts derailing, then it goes off the tracks. But for the most part,
my favorite part of this movie was honestly the mirror. They did such a good job of, it was clear that the characters were personifying it. There was nothing cheesy about it. The mirror didn't move. The
mirror just exists.
It didn't really do anything, but it controlled the people around it. There was one effect, where the mom was freaking out because she found out her husband was cheating, so she's throwing stuff. She throws something at the mirror, it bounces off, and there's just this pulse. And as the mirror grabs her, essentially, that was it. That was the extent of its power you saw. But they did a great job of showing music that mirrored the mirror, where it was this pulsing music. You could literally feel the mirror becoming more and less powerful as it fed. It was really cool. The unexplained crack in the beginning was so crucial to the movie. I didn't realize it when I first watched it, but when Karen Gillan is talking to the mirror, she runs her finger along this one tiny little crack in the corner, and she goes, "I hope this still hurts." It held the movie together, because otherwise you knew what happened to the parents. There was really no surprise in it, but you were watching because, the parents were dead. You were watching because of the crack in it. Something happened that you don't know about. That was really crucial. I really liked it.
Yeah, I really liked that. The other thing, too, about the mirror, it almost felt ornamental, which was kind of interesting. It was a crucial character without, and maybe you already said all of this, I just wanted to use the word ornamental. I just really enjoyed its presence. It has a presence without
for sure
doing anything.
It's just a dark, it's a dark wooden frame with glass, and that's it. It's not carved faces or anything.
There's nothing special about it.
It truly is just a pretty looking mirror, and that's it. You honestly your grandmother probably has one. The movie also does an excellent job of blurring what is real and isn't. A lot of movies do this thing that I hate, where they'll make things ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous. And this movie did kind of do that in the beginning, like when he's looking at the wall and he sees where his mom was chained, and then he looks away and looks back and it's gone. It'll do that, and it'll be like, ooh, psychological horror, do you know it's real? This movie actually did a good job of, at a certain point, you truly do not know what the characters are seeing, what they can trust, and it was done well.
I don't even know what I was seeing and what I could trust as the watcher. That's what makes it so. I asked, is the husband dead? Or the fiance dead? We don't know.
They had such a good blend of what they were seeing and what wasn't, that you didn't feel like you were being lied to. You felt like you were being misled. They didn't say oops, surprise, actually, they're killing each other. There's a scene where the dad has a Band-Aid on his finger, and he pulls it off, looks away, looks back, and the Band-Aid's back on. And then when he's trying to remove it, he can't. So he takes this stapler remover, and he tries to pull it off, and he can't. And it like flashes back and forth with what's really happening, and it's him pulling off his fingernail. The movie just had so much like that. Like the Marisol letter, you don't know if that was real or not. It doesn't really matter. It just was so good. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. That scene where she has the plate right before she kills her fiance. She finds these broken. Actually, no, scratch that. The scene with the apple.
I have my complaints about the apple, but that was a good demonstration of the mirror and its powers. Like she's eating an apple while she fixes light bulbs. She accidentally grabs a light bulb and takes a bite out of it.
But then it's revealed that she's actually just eating the apple.
Yeah, so it's really the mirror is just like flexing its powers as it gets more and more powerful.
Yeah, no. I did like it. I liked the scene. I don't know if I liked that the mirror just being a little bit of a jerk. But yeah. So one of the things I did like, I really liked the dynamic of the siblings. You know, at first when Gillan, picks him up from wherever he was being held.
Adult daycare.
Sure. Adult daycare. She's like, all right, let's do this. Like, and he's like, no. And, and then she's like, I haven't been able to see you. And he's like, yeah. And you can tell their relationship is strained. Mm-hmm. But then as soon as they're like back in the house and things are happening, they revert back and they have like a much stronger bond. I really enjoyed that.
They bicker a little bit.
They do, yeah.
Really, the characters aren't groundbreaking, but they're very nuanced and interesting. Mm-hmm. I really liked the printer scene where her fiance finds that she printed out pictures of corpses. I like that because it hinted at clearly something more serious is troubling her. But they kept using, I'll complain about it later, but they kept using the nightmares to show that she was bothered by it. I thought that was dumb.
Yeah. So my issue with the printer scene, though, and maybe it's just me personally, she uses her work printer to do this. So her fiance's solution is not, hey, why don't you print these out at home? It's, I got you your own printer for work so you can print out whatever you want. I would be questioning why she's printing these out at work on top of many other things.
Well, I mean, that does point more to like her being clearly not over this. It's interrupting her personal and business life. She's letting it. That's
a fair point. I think my complaint is the fiance's reaction more than her doing it at work.
So one of the things I liked was the symmetry of the movie. The past and the present were literally mirrored. Like the same process was happening. It was incredible. The timing was great. Like at one point, Brenton Thwaites, after he gets out of adult daycare, he calls Karen Gillan and he says, hey, I finally got a cell phone, like for the first time in my life. This is weird. And then when it cut to the past, what was happening is Karen Gillan was like, as a 12-year-old begging her mom for a cell phone. She's like, all my friends have one. And the symmetry of it was beautiful.
Oh my God. I had that exact conversation with my parents, which did not lead me to getting a cell phone. What did lead me getting to a cell phone, this is important, was me walking home from school and getting lost.
Oh my God.
Because I walked the wrong way. And
did you walk the wrong way, or did you, oops, I sure hope this is the way home?
I walked the wrong way. I had only walked home like maybe once before with a friend. And my mom was so shocked I didn't know the way. And I was like, okay.
Another symmetrical thing that I liked was that the Karen Gillan gets a dog as a like she means to use as bait. The dog ends up getting away, so it's okay. So only one dog died in the movie. So she is using like this dog to test how it's absorbing living things. And the dog's barking when she's in an argument with her brother, and she just snaps at it and she goes, "Shut up, Mason." I don't know if you picked up on it, but Mason was actually the name of their dog
Yes.
when they were kids.
Yes.
So that she explicitly said the name of the present dog was just dog. She
didn't give it a name.
Right. So that just, it was great at blending the lines between the past and the present.
Yeah, I agree. That was pretty good. Mm-hmm. There was no cheesiness to the past scenes. Mm-hmm. Like, there might have been like a filter on it at some points, but for the most part, there wasn't. Some movies will, when they show like a flashback or a scene in the past, it's clearly that. And for example, Skeleton Key. They had a flashback scene where it was black and white, but then it wasn't black and white. But they cheesed it up. This movie didn't do that, and it made it so good. Mm-hmm. It was great.
I mean, that added to the blending of the two, yeah. The general camera work was pretty good. Lots of shots of mirrors and windows positioned in a way that they looked like mirrors. I liked it. There was a slow dolly zoom, which I loved. Plays with the reflection really well. Overall, it was a very solid aspect of the movie. Mm-hmm. It was a very intentional decision not to include a backstory for the mirror, and I loved that. At no point in any of my 5 or 6 watchings, I've legitimately lost count, have I ever cared about why it is the way it is.
So, to be honest, I do, but it also, it increases why the movie is good. Because I'm sitting here wondering what the origin is, but I don't want to know it. It just it adds to the mystery. It's a good thing that I just want to.
I think movies in general tend to overrate origins. Think about the best. What was my top 5 horror? It's
The Thing.
The Thing,
The
Scream,
Shining.
Alien, The Shining, and in no order. I forget the last one. But think of that, about 50% actually have explanations. For The Thing, it's an alien. Probably. Seems to be frozen. We don't know why it's here or why it isn't. Alien, straight up, we don't know. It hints at something that we don't understand. The Shining, same deal. I think movies just way overrate figuring out why things do it.
Does the Shining doesn't give a backstory, does it?
It does and it doesn't. It's clear that it's ghosts, but it doesn't have a reason why all these souls are collecting in one place.
Okay, yeah. Got it.
And even in the book, it was clear that it was just some kind of entity. That was it.
Huh.
It's just something is keeping them there, and that was all the information we got.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't explain things, but I'm saying don't feel the need to explain things. Mm-hmm. The plot of this movie just unfolds really beautifully. Each thing leads to the next. It takes you on a journey. I've complained before about movies that are just things happening and then it's the end. This really, each thing led to the next.
Yeah, it was... I don't know how to phrase it. I don't know. No, I really like it, though.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, of course I do. So one of the things I did like was the mirror kind of causing some mischief when they first... You already mentioned it in the plot, but I really enjoyed that because it was kind of like the mirror was taunting them. Mm-hmm. And at first, a lot of what the mirror does is kind of taunting them, but then it escalates. And I really liked that kind of initial taunting because it kind of gave them what they wanted, but also was like,
yeah.
So I enjoyed that. And then also, the one thing I did really like is that there are very few jump scares in this movie. Mm-hmm. The horror is the psychological aspect.
The director, Mike Flanagan, has been just endlessly praised at how well he's able to capture horror without jump scares.
He doesn't like them.
Mm-hmm. I will get into it a little bit because I think that, I'll get into it a bit. What else do you have?
That's it.
Okay. I have one last thing that I liked, and that is Karen Gillan. I love her.
Yeah.
And the most incredible thing I've ever seen was when she got killed and still looked absolutely gorgeous with an anchor in her head. I was like, that's not fair. That's not okay that you could look that good while dead.
That's funny.
The only people I've seen that have been able to do that was Michelle Rodriguez in the Resident Evil movie. she's turning into a zombie. And I'm like, what the hell? You can't look this pretty half dead. This is not okay.
She did, listen, her death is really good and she does look great. I forgot a fun fact. Did I tell you that for some of the scenes, if they had to reshoot anything, she had to wear a wig because she cut her hair for another movie?
Was it probably wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy then.
I think it was the first one possibly, but then also another movie, something Happiness. I forget the name of it. I hadn't heard of it, so I didn't write it down. But she did have to wear a wig.
That's funny. I wonder if we can go back and point out the scenes in which Karen Gillan is wearing a Karen Gillan wig.
I doubt it. That's Hollywood.
So now I think we're ready to talk about the bad. The bad. I mentioned earlier that I thought that there was not a single good jump scare in this movie. I don't think that horror movies should rely on jump scares, but I think it's extremely important to have them. It's like
I think a little bit.
It's just a staple of the genre. It's like having a superhero movie without a romantic side plot. Is just it needs to happen, otherwise it just feels incomplete, is all. It doesn't need to rely on it. They could have just had one or two. Just
if they had like one really good one, I would be satisfied.
Yeah.
Because I don't disagree with you, but what I liked about it is that it was scary without it, but I do think it could have used like at least one.
Yeah, and it was really scary without it. I liked that, but it just needed a couple.
Yeah.
So the jump scares they did have were very predictable. Just with the music, you could tell right away when they were building up to one. There was a scene in which a head turns in the mirror, which I thought was a great way of establishing the mirror's powers. Is she's looking in the mirror and she sees like a statue turn its head, but then she goes and she's like pulling off all the tarps off of it so she can see what's underneath. And it was just so obviously a rule of threes. Like there was three of them. She pulled the first one off, fake out. Pulled the second one off, fake out. She goes to pull the third one off, build up, build up, build up, and then a guy comes up behind her. He's like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It was so clear, and I just hated it. I just wanted one or two, especially towards the end. It might have been nice, because they did such a good job with tension.
It would have been nice towards the end to have a really good jump scare on top of like the ending. Or as part of the ending. That it's set up for a good jump scare, to be honest.
At the very end, it would have been awfully cheesy, but maybe like when he let the anchor go or something, but not like fade to credits, right?
No, okay. I'm talking about when he let the anchor go.
Yeah, that would have been good.
In my mind, that is the ending. Everything that happens after that is irrelevant.
It's that's the climax of the movie for sure.
Yeah, they could have had a really good jump scare with that, and it would have been.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, while is good because of the genre, the psychological horror, I felt towards the end it got really hard to follow, which I know is kind of the point, but at the same time I wish it was maybe a tiny bit more clear.
What I liked about the movie in general was that I didn't think it was necessarily hard to follow. It was hard to tell what was really happening.
That's what I mean more so than... Yes. Sorry. It was clear to follow. I just mean it was hard to understand what exactly was going on. And I wish that was a little bit more... I don't know how to phrase it. I wish it was easier to follow a little bit towards the end. I know that's the point, that you're not supposed to be able to, whatever. But for me and my brain, I need a little bit more linearness, if that makes sense.
One of the things that I didn't like was the ghosts. I liked... Maybe they could have been good, but they were introduced way too quickly. Like when the dad was just walking and he saw her. Think about how much better it would have been if he was walking and she was a reflection in the mirror. And he
it would have been so much better.
I did like that they kind of appeared more and more towards the end as the mirror gained control. But... they were just introduced too quickly, kind of put the movie in a weird middle ground between haunted house and this inanimate object.
Yeah, it kind of threw me off a little because it's all about psychological horror, and maybe like it's just the mirror is making you imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it felt a little too on the nose of something like that. So
that's one of my biggest complaints about this movie is it got in its own way so many times. It would set up this incredible like plot with a really interesting villain, I don't know what to call the mirror, entity. And then it would do like the world's cheesiest nightmare scene where she wakes up like, oh my God, I thought it was my dad again. I'm like, I get it. You do not need to establish the fact that she is upset about this. Yeah. And then one of my biggest complaints was the phone when she's like, oh, I'll use the phone to tell what's real. It's controlling what's in your mind. The
she
phone
also
is not going to help.
established, though, that they can't trust the phones.
Yeah.
So that also is in my bad because she holds up the phone to try and see what's real, and she's like, it's worked. But she already said, like, they can't trust it. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason she took away his phone.
They called, like, 5 times, and every time it was the same voice of the mirror. They cannot trust anything that they see, hear, feel. Nothing. And that's part of what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
No, it was really
so the fact that they tried to ascribe a like method to it just defeated. It just got in its own way.
Yeah, it definitely did. That scene really, really just kind of annoyed me. Mm-hmm. The whole, on top of her killing her fiance, whether he showed up or not, I think it's more scary if he didn't show up and that it was just the mirror freaking her out on top of a freak out. Like, that to me is better because at that point, like, she in the world of like, it wasn't described as this, but she kind of has nothing to live for after that. Like, her fiance, her mom's dead, her fiance's dead, like, her brother's alive, but that's her brother's
that wouldn't keep me alive.
No. I just mean, like, she hasn't really been around her brother since he was 10.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's something to live for, but at the same time, like, they don't know if they're going to survive it. Right. I mean, like, she doesn't have something to live for outside of the house.
Like, just think about how much better it could have been if maybe it turned her fiance's hourly phone calls into maybe something. Maybe he's getting annoyed with her, and so she doesn't know if that's the mirror trying to ruin her relationship or the reasonable thing of, hey, you're comfortable hanging out with your brother and taking phone calls every hour. Like, can I get maybe a heads up, an explanation? And then
part of me thinks he kind of knows what's going on. The way he was so nonchalant when she asked him to do things.
Mm-hmm. And that would have been such a great character thing, is we as the audience wouldn't be able to tell if this is her seemingly perfect boyfriend just acting out of character, or if it's him finally being like, okay, I've been nice, can I get something?
Right. I thought that's what was going to happen with the phone calls, but instead she just gets a phone call after she, air quotes, kills her fiance, and she doesn't know if it's him or not. And I kind of wish with that, if it wasn't him, if it was the mirror, I kind of wish it showed us that a little bit more, because it just did the normal call that she was already getting from him, or made it like a little bit more interesting after the fact that she killed her fiance.
It just didn't really establish the rules for that. Like,
no.
He was the first physical thing to like attack them, so it was never clear if it could or couldn't exist.
Yeah. And she asks her brother if he can see it, and that doesn't do anything because you're both seeing things. Like, to me, I'd be like, I don't believe that's him. He's clearly at home.
Mm-hmm. I did like when she was trying to figure out if she actually stabbed him. She was like, if the plate's not real, if the plate was never here, then I couldn't have stabbed him.
Right.
I did like that kind of grappling, because it was desperate. It was a really good way of, like, instead of allowing you some level of clarity, it was like,
it just pushed you further into the unknown realm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I only have one thing left, I think.
I have 2 more.
Okay, perfect. Why don't you give one and then I'll give one.
Okay. I thought the dialogue was really weak at times. It was fine. Like, it isn't an overall negative, but there was a lot of what Brandon Sanderson calls maiden butler dialogue. Have I talked about that already?
It sounds familiar, but explain it again.
Okay, so the concept is it's a play, and at the beginning, the maid and butler are talking, and they're like, well, you know that so-and-so is going to arrive today. It's like, well, you know he hates this, and it's two characters who already know something, talking for the sole purpose of informing the audience. It's very weak, and it's boring, and there was a lot of that of, like, you remember the promise? You remember what mom and dad were like? And
yeah.
It was weak. There was... Overall, the dialogue was just very plain. Kind of the same problem as Wicker Man, is no one had any good things to say. It was just, like, a lot of filler words.
I have to agree. Over-the-top
dramatic at some parts. At one point, I wrote down the my favorite line, which was, she was talking, this isn't the just Joe DeStasio Memorial line, but she's talking to her fiance, and she's like, I'm dealing with some stuff, some parental stuff. I'm like, really? Is this the best that Mike Flanagan could come up with for your dad died? Your dad, like, killed your mom, and your brother shot him. This was parental stuff?
Dude, I am not a screenwriter and have never claimed to be, so I don't know.
And then it culminated in when finally the mirror in the present, like, revealed that it was able to do things and it wasn't in her head. She looks at her brother and goes, "Ha! That's it. Ha!"
I mean, listen though, if I had a brother, which I do.
Yeah.
I can relate to this character as I have a younger brother, but if I proved him wrong, no, I wouldn't even say ha. I would say I told you so. Actually, I don't even think I'd say I told you so. I would be sarcastic about it and be like, you don't say. But no, it was a bad line.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing that I have complaint is back to the ghosts. I forgot to bring this up earlier. So
Ghost part 2.
It's really the special effects on the ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Their eyes are mirrors, but it looks so bad because the light is kind of catching it, but also it doesn't really look like it is. And, it's a completely dark room, but they're kind of glowing and kind of not. I wish it shows a direction.
Yeah.
It's just two in the middle.
Mm-hmm. The effects are really bad at times.
Yeah.
Like, the eyes specifically, they look like they're glowing eyes, and it took a close-up for me to realize they're supposed to be mirrors. That should have been done better. I like the idea of when someone dies, their eyes kind of become mirrors to represent that they are fully a part of this entity now.
If that's the case, though, they should have been absolutely reflective to the point where they're so clear you can see yourself in them.
Yeah.
Like, they should have been true mirrors. Mm-hmm. They were just kind of shiny.
Yeah, they caught the light so well that they looked like they were glowing. They shone in the They shined in the dark.
Yeah, shined. Listen, and if they chose instead to go with the full shining eyes because of that, I wish it was just brighter.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been more effective because it would be like, oh, okay, those are our mirrors reflecting light versus shiny pools.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, there was a really bad fake slap. There was a scene where It
was such a pointless scene, too.
I did like it because Karen Gillan slapped her brother because he's like, you need to accept that our father was a killer. I did like it because it showed her character of, like, she's very defensive about her family. And that was why she was destroying the mirror. She could have lived a happy life without it. But it was like she needed to prove that her dad was a good guy. That her mom was a good guy. Her brother was a good guy.
Yeah.
She just needed to prove that it was this mirror. And that's why I did really like how defensive she was about it, but it was such a bad fake slap.
Yeah.
There was a real bad fake lip sync where they tried to have Marisol, which is just this ghost, talk with her dad's voice, but, like, she didn't get a single word right.
It was funny.
Yeah. So are you ready to talk about what you found spooky?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. The spooky!
Ooh.
So overall, very spooky movie. This is perfect for it.
Yeah.
Very few jump scares, a lot of spooks. My spookiest moment was at the end. The culmination of the movie, her and her brother in the past, they just shot the dad, the mirror got chipped, and they're like, the ghosts have surrounded them, and they're like boxing them in, they're curled up on the floor. They all open their mouths, and instead of saying something, just the alarm goes off from the present, which means that the anchor is about to swing. It was really, and it was this awful, horrible noise. It was really great sound design.
It was great. It was very, very spooky. I purposely didn't write that one down because I assumed you would.
Good call.
Yes. So one of the things that I found spooky, I already mentioned it, but when she eats the light bulb, I get really weird around like mouth food horror. So like to me, that was the scariest thing. Eating glass, horrifying for me. Mm-hmm. I do not even try to prank me with some fake glass that's actually edible. I don't want it.
You wouldn't notice if it's fake glass.
I realize that.
You
but
would just eat it and not think about it. I think the spookiest part of that was the fact that she wasn't eating one of the 3 acceptable types of apples. There's, in no particular order, there's Macintosh, Granny Smith, and Honeycrisp. All others are just unacceptable. She was eating like this awful Red Delicious.
It might have been Red
that
Delicious.
shit in the trash.
Okay. Listen, when you go to the grocery store, sometimes you have to buy what they have.
She would have, Karen Gillan in my dreams would have said, "Hey Carter, do you want an apple?" I would have said, "Yeah, thanks." I'd look at the Red Delicious, and when she walked the other way, I'd thrown it in the trash. It would have been a light bulb, and that never would have entered my mouth.
Listen, well, see, if it was me, I would have taken only one bite before throwing it in the trash, because I am the person who goes apple picking that wants to try every single apple, knowing that I don't like it, but need to take that one bite to confirm.
See, I don't need to because I've already done that. And I said, these are all shit except for these 3 types of apples.
Yeah, but like, that was a whole year ago. I gotta do it all over again. What do you mean?
Although my favorite part about that dramatic hot take is that I legitimately have never met anyone in my life who's disagreed with me.
No.
I think the most conflict I've ever gotten is someone said that I should include 1 apple in there instead of, I think, Honeycrisp. But
Honeycrisp is the top one.
A, they'd never tried a Honeycrisp apple, and B, I don't respect their opinion. But
I think there are some other apples that are also pretty good, but those are the top 3. I don't know.
I've never been met with anything other than like silent nodding and like amen.
Those are all red apples though, right?
No, Honeycrisp is golden.
That's right.
Granny Smith is green.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so we have a full spectrum.
Granny Smith is very crisp, very crisp and very tart.
Yeah.
A Macintosh is a lot sweeter.
Macintosh
but also
is
solid.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge... I get Macintosh to make pies with or make apple crisp with, but I don't enjoy biting into a Macintosh. But it's also...
I could fuck up a Macintosh right now.
It's also... The texture's a little soft for me. I enjoy Honeycrisp and Granny Smith because they are like a... You bite into it and like each bite continues to be hard.
I do enjoy that.
Crunchier.
I do enjoy that, but Macintosh is enough crisp for me.
I want my teeth to be assaulted by my apples. All right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how long we've talked about apples here. What were you saying? Spooky apple scene, right? Karen Gillan.
She eats the light bulb and she just kind of stands there in shock. And honestly, that would be my reaction too. I was surprised when she actually didn't bite into the light bulb.
That's what I loved. That was more of the movie genuinely blurring the lines between reality. It wasn't taking pleasure in just being confusing to the audience. It was just as hard for the characters to know what was happening. Yeah,
she like bit into it, and I'm like, I was so concerned. I was like, what is she gonna do? Yeah. How is she gonna talk to her brother now? Like, I was that's why this scene like is in my. It really caught my attention.
But here's the best part: the apple scene had so much build up. It's crazy how intelligent this is. There was so much buildup. They're doing the lights, and she sets down the apple next to the light bulbs on the counter.
Right.
So, and they do a close-up, so right away you know they're going to do something like that. And you think you know, oh, this is a cheesy, like, she's going to bite into it.
But it's not.
It's so good.
You don't even really see the scene of her biting into it. You see it from behind and you hear the glass shatter on the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's how you know she bit into the light bulb. And then you're sitting there like, how the frick did she bite into a light bulb? Like, this scene really is, I know you have complaints about it, but I really loved it.
I mean, it was great.
The other spooky thing that I thought was spooky was the mother chained up when I think it was Kaylee, when she breaks into the room and the mother is like scrambling on the ground like a dog trying to be freed of these chains. That scared me. It just was like, it was just scary. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I don't
know words for it.
My last thing, and by the way, there are a lot of really good spooky moments in this. These are just the highlights.
These are our highlights. I wouldn't say
that's fair.
The highlights, because someone might have a different opinion.
I mentioned earlier this finger scene where he's trying to pull off the Band-Aid. That was another spooky scene that I liked. I did think originally it was a little over the top, but I've kind of come back around watching it. I think watching it for the first time, it's the right amount, but knowing that it's going to happen makes it feel a little cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to mention the Joe DeStasio memorial line, which is, "Ha!"
You were doing that.
So overall, I mentioned with the Dalton line, I've struggled for years to figure out whether or not this is a good or bad movie, and I finally made up my mind, and I will tell you, this is a good movie.
I agree it's a good movie.
I agree it's a good movie. It's exceptionally bad at horror, at jump scares, but it's got really great grasp on horror. I love the concept of the mirror. The past and present is great because it's not really about what happened, because you know what happened. The parents died. It's kind of about the fight at the end where they break the mirror. You want to hear about that. And I think that it's a good movie that's tripped over itself quite a few times, and ultimately it ruined what should have been a great movie.
I have to agree with your assessment. I will say this is this is the scariest movie we've covered for this podcast.
I can't really remember what we've seen, so I don't know if I can agree with that, but
you can agree. It was definitely scary.
It was a different kind of scary. You know, I grew up on slashers, and just to be clear, I'm 24 years old, so I grew up on slashers, watching slashers in like 2012,
right?
So, like I wasn't.
We've been very privileged to see good slashers come out.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, yeah. I grew up in the suburbs. I worked at a summer camp. Of course, I'm gonna relate more to that kind of horror, but. Anyway, those place more of an emphasis on jump scares, and so I don't like calling a movie scary unless I flinch a couple times, and this movie was very tense. It was spooky, but didn't have what I was looking for.
My heart was racing, so...
and it's not a sin.
Not a jump scare racing. It just was like, I was so on the edge of my seat and like scared of what was going to happen for them. So again,
that's fair.
I think this is the scariest movie we've watched, but I really liked this movie. I thought it was really good. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to make my top 5, but it's definitely going on my list of favorites.
In this podcast or ever?
In general.
Really?
To be fair,
That's bold.
Okay, I haven't seen a lot of horror movies, so it'll probably get pushed down maybe top 20, but listen, for this podcast, it's number 1.
I do want to say, though...
Maybe number 2, actually, Zombieverse is pretty good.
This movie actually was like the conception of this podcast, because way back in like my junior or sophomore year of college, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were looking at the top 100 horror movies of all time. The first like 70 we didn't even recognize, but we got to around 20, and they said that Oculus was like the 20th best horror movie ever. And I was like, that's absurd. And then we went through it, and previously there was nothing that I would have said was better than Oculus that should have been higher. And reading it, I didn't find anything that I thought was worse than Oculus and should have been lower. And I was like, oh shit, Oculus might legitimately be the 20th best horror movie of all time. And that's when I realized that horror sucks. Good night, everyone.
I hate you for that, but also, exactly. I was just going to follow up and say that just speaks so much for the genre, because if this genre overall was... Listen, if this was a rom-com in the rom-com genre, it wouldn't be a good rom-com. Like, just translated mediocrity, it wouldn't be good.
You would have watched it and been like, this is a horror movie. Why is this a rom-com?
No, but I mean, listen, I just mean, in general, if we were to have a similar movie comparison as a rom-com, it wouldn't make top 20. It would probably be, in the maybe 75%, like 75 area.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. There are so many good rom-coms. That's like, there's... Horror, I feel like, is currently kind of coming into a space where there's a lot of pretty good movies coming out. So maybe it's going to be pushed out of its 20th ranking, but...
I have been saying, though... By the way, this was... When I came to this conclusion, like, Get Out had just come out.
Yeah.
Us hadn't come out. So it has been pushed back a little bit.
Right.
But... That being said, it hasn't been, like, relegated to the end of the line.
No, oh god, no.
So, part of my issue is that I do not believe that horror is about to get any better.
You don't think so?
There will be a lot of good movies. Ari Aster's doing some great things. Jordan Peele is outstanding. But I'm so excited to see Smile. But the problem is that Scream made what, like $100 million off of some garbage budget?
Yeah.
They're just going to keep doing that, milking it for everything they got. And the only good movies that will come out are like 3 people. And then in the next decade, probably someone will break through and have a good movie. And why, honestly, from a business perspective, why would they? They made so much money from these remakes. I can't blame them.
No, I have to agree with you. You're absolutely right in the sense of, like, why would they invest in more horror that's different rather than making a crap ton of money on stupid remakes? Like, Jason X. Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Not necessary, but they made so much money on film sales, it's not even funny because everyone had to complete their collection.
Yeah.
Everyone had to own a copy of it.
It's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. I do think we're kind of at the tail end of the remakes, but I don't believe for a second that it's going to get better. I think it's going to get... They're either going to dive deeper and we're going to get remakes of Event Horizon and Hellraiser, or it's
we already are getting a sequel of Hellraiser.
Right. I forgot about Hellraiser. Yeah, Event Horizon, there's for sure going to be a remake of that.
If they do a remake of Event Horizon, I really hope they hire someone that can do I hope they hire Mike Flanagan to do it, so that's really good psychological horror. Genuinely.
I don't think they should do it. It's got to be body horror.
Is it body horror?
Yeah.
I thought it was psychological
horror.
It
should be body horror. Think about they're like mutilating each other.
That's a good point.
Should lean into that.
But isn't the point of it that the ship is going crazy?
I'm sorry. I was thinking Hellraiser. Yeah, actually, Event Horizon, that would be really good. That would be really good.
If Mike Flanagan redid Event Horizon, oh my god, I would
love that.
It would be so good. I think he should partner someone who knows really good jump scares and do, dream team. Mike Flanagan, who's really good with jump scares. I'm
trying to think of the best jump scare movie. Ari Aster's outstanding.
All right,
he's so good at the like when to fake out, when to hint at a jump scare.
Perfect. So Dream Team for Event Horizon remake. I'm doing it now. Is Mike Flanagan and Ari Aster working together on it? Just it doesn't need a whole lot of jump scare. It just needs like some good ones, like what this movie needed. Just some good ones with that really good psychological horror. I think it would be fantastic.
I actually had some of these thoughts earlier today where I was like, man, if they just combine Mike Flanagan with like a really good jump scare director, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm just like, man, wouldn't this dream team of 2 awesome directors be great?
I know. That is so true. Mike Flanagan should teach a masterclass to directors on good non-jump scare horror.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ari Aster should teach a masterclass on jump scare horror. Then we'd have all these great directors coming out, and horror would be great.
Well, yeah, this kind of ties back to what I said about horror getting worse before it gets better. Is I don't think the problem is that there are no good horror directors. I think they just don't care.
That's true.
Like, part of what I liked about the those big slasher franchises is people would just dredge up whatever like garbage they could, but they would try to make something good. They wouldn't just put out a product.
Yeah.
Is they would try and fail. But now I truly believe we're down to like 3 horror directors that are actually trying to make a good horror movie.
I hear that. I think you're on the right path with that.
And thank God for Jordan Peele, or we would
oh
be
my God,
or we would be
know.
down to like 1.
Genuinely. Jordan Peele has done so much for this genre, and just his movies are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Us is my favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of horror, it is my favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal.
Get Out was outstanding in helping the like deeper themes of horror come through. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the first, but it was.
No, but it's pushing limits, and
it's really good at making it current issues, which is a big problem with remaking the slashers. Slashers tap into fears of the 70s and 80s, and they were spooky at the time, but no one is really afraid that when they have sex, they're gonna die.
Right.
Just sexual guilt is not nearly as big a deal, which is why It Follows didn't tap into that. It never tapped into the fear that, like, it was bad because you had sex. It was like, it was about trauma and grief. And so he's doing a good job of moving the conversation to the present.
I have to agree. I think if people listen to him and take his lead, directors, I mean, then we will come into a horror renaissance. But I don't think we're there yet. I have to agree with you. I really want to be there, though.
Yeah. Because
how amazing would that be?
It would be awesome.
All right.
So, if I had to compare this movie to an actor, I would say that it's Kevin Bacon. Any actor better than Kevin Bacon is a good actor. Any actor worse than Kevin Bacon is a bad actor. Right along the line.
Kevin Bacon's a good neutral.
Yeah.
For my rating, I give this movie 7.5 dead plants.
Okay, that's all. For mine, I gave it 6.5 Jumanji movies. Make Karen Gillan forever be in the franchise.
She brings a lot to the franchise. All right. So next week, you're what?
Nothing. I'm just excited.
So in our reality here, next week we're going to be going and watching Nope in theaters the day it comes out, which is our normal recording day. So we're very excited about that. But for you listeners, next week you're actually going to get the movie we recorded last week, which is Wicker Man. Yeah,
but we might switch it up. So not that this will help you, but
what do you mean switch it up?
If I can turn around Nope fast enough, then this episode will get pushed back a week.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Which is really funny thinking of us warning you guys in this episode.
I know. Well, no, that's why I was just saying we're really excited to go see it. And sucks for you guys.
Yeah.
This is just a simulation.
We'll give plenty of spoiler warnings.
Yeah. Listen, if you want to see Nope, don't listen to that I mean, it's already come out. At this point, you've probably already listened to it. Why are we explaining this?
You've already listened to our podcast telling you why Nope sucks, even though it probably won't.
I'm very excited for Nope.
I'm pretty excited.
All right. I think, listen, next week, we're going to probably be doing The Wicker Man. If not, it's going to be Nope. If you haven't seen...
Wait a minute. The Wicker Man has come out by this point. For sure.
Oh,
The Wicker Man will have come out before we've seen Nope. It'll come out on Wednesday. So either you will listen to this or Nope.
So then we should reveal another movie.
Yeah, so either we're watching Nope, which honestly I think odds are you've already listened to it, Or
we're gonna watch, hold on, let me pull up is Prom Night a bad movie?
Oh.
All right.
I don't know, but I know that I bought Prom Night, a DVD set, Prom Night 1, 2, and 4.
Oh, didn't you get that at Savers?
Yes. Again, 1, 2, and 4. They didn't include Prom Night 3.
Okay, so Prom Night has a 3.9 out of 10. It's got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to be watching Prom Night next week. So if you're listening to this and Nope hasn't come out yet, we're watching Nope next week. But if Nope has come out, then we're going to be watching Prom Night. Regardless, we're doing one or the other. Both will be watched and you'll hear about it. Yeah?
Jamie Lee Curtis, if you want to be in this episode, give me a call.
Please, I'll give you our podcast number. Or I'll give you my personal number.
Yeah, I'll 100% give Jamie Lee Curtis my personal number.
All right. With that, thank you all for listening. And please make sure to share with your friends, rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find us at horrorsucks.com and on Instagram at horrorsuckspodcast.
That's right. We got a website now.
Woohoo! So go there. You can sign up for our email subscription where I will email you every week about the movie. It's exciting.
It's always Ashley. I am just as far from social media as I possibly can.
Yeah, whenever you message us on the Instagram, it is just me. Any comments made on pictures, I am the responder or the liker. And if you are a listener and you would like to message us on Instagram, please let me know. We get a lot of spam. A lot of spam. And with that,
stay spooky.
Horror Sucks is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Music and production done by Ashley Atkins and editing done by Carter Rhodes. Thanks for listening.